What's your record now this year?
You know, I don't know. That's a good question. I think
You always keep
I've
track
won
of
2 or
everything.
3. Yeah, it's been pretty even all the way around. Even the coaching staff. Joe Lombardi, I believe, has 2 victories. Pete Carmichael, I think, has snuck in 1. JT Barrett hit 2 in a row at one point. Savage has 2. Taysom, have you won a QB challenge yet?
I got 3.
No. So Taysom, huh?
I got 3.
You have 3?
Yep.
There's a little asterisk by the picture to that. But that's why you have to tune in when we post these online, and you make the call.
Were you a little disappointed in the tackling dummies performance in the race?
Yeah, so have you ever seen that thing like really go on pavement or on turf? It goes about 22 miles an hour or something like that. So it's extremely fast. I was messing around with it on the Ellen show this off season. She did a kind of a side video, and they had me controlling one, and I was having fun with it until I spun it around and had it coming directly at me, and I thought it was one of these things I could just kind of put my shoulder into and everything would be good. The problem is that the motor and everything is, and the weight is down below, and so even though you hit the top, the bottom keeps going, and so it kind of took my legs out and flipped me onto my side, and so a little bit of an embarrassing moment, but it got the best of me on that one. I'm going to have a different strategy next time one of those things come bearing down on me.
Drew, when did you kind of start really itemizing your routine and getting everything kind of the way you like it?
That's been an ongoing thing throughout my career. I think it's, you know, early on you feel like you're pretty invincible. You're young. You can kind of wake up every day and go a Mach 3 with your hair on fire, and you don't really think twice. I think as you get older, as you have more experience in the league, you begin to become a bit more intentional with the things that you do. You begin to ask why. Why do I do the things I do? Is this helping me become a better player, a better quarterback, or is this counterproductive? Do I need to eliminate this? Do I need to modify it? So you just begin to train smarter, recover smarter. I'd say over the last 15 years especially, just the amount of information that we have about what diet does for you, what sleep habits do, different ways to help the body recover, the mind recover. We just know so much more now than we did then. So you take that information and then you incorporate it into how you handle things. So I'd say over the last 5 years especially, I feel like I've had a really good routine, and I reevaluated every offseason. I asked myself what I can do to make it a little bit better, tweak it. Usually I find subtle ways to do that, but for the most part I know what works for me. I'm very in tune with my body. I listen to my body. That tells me when I can push it, when I need to scale back maybe a little bit. Because at the end of the day, for us it's it's just like a professional Major League Baseball pitcher knows he's pitching every 5 days, right? So what does he have to do in those other 4 days, right, in order to get himself in the best position to throw, when it's his time up. For me, in thinking about the season, it's once every 7 days, right, and so hey, what do I have to do in those other 6 days in order to put myself in the best position to, to go out on Sundays and perform well.
Drew, having Jonathan Williams in training camp, do you get a different appreciation for him?
Yeah, I think once the pads come on, he's an impressive guy. He's run the ball extremely well, but I think more so than that, he stuck his nose in there in pass protection, better than anybody I've seen in a while. He really takes pride in that, and obviously that's a role amongst our running backs that they take really great pride in, Alvin and Mark both. And typically that takes some evolution. A lot of guys come in and they're good runners, but once you kind of get them into the system and they realize, okay, I got to be able to pass protect too. Because if I can do that, that means I'm going to be on the field more, which means I'm going to get other opportunities, right, to both run and catch balls out of the backfield. So it just makes me a more versatile player, a more productive player. So I think that's something that Jonathan Williams has done very well thus far.
Have you ever talked to a pitcher about that thing you were saying? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
If it's like a transfer of ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. There is.
Anyone in particular?
I've spoken with Nolan Ryan. I was a big fan of his growing up. He's a legend, especially for a kid growing up in Texas. I used to watch this video, Golden Greats of Baseball. I think I might have mentioned that to you guys before, and that's where I developed a love for Ted Williams. That's why I wear number 9. But Nolan was my favorite pitcher. You know, Nolan was like my Ted Williams for pitchers. So I remember studying Nolan Ryan VHS tapes on how to throw a four-seam fastball and a curveball and, you know, all these different things. I feel like I know his career pretty well from Alvin, Texas. You know, played till he was 47 years old, threw his last fastball 95 miles an hour at age 47. He didn't stop pitching because he couldn't still throw strikes and get people out. He stopped pitching because it became more and more difficult to turn around every 5 days, you know, and pitch like those guys are required to do in a starting rotation. So you look at his career and look at the way that he trained and the things that he did to, you know, prepare himself to play with the longevity that he played with and at the level that he was able to play at. And I think there's just a lot of things about his psyche and his mentality and his toughness, both physical and mental, that are to be admired.
Does Tom House, his coaching kind of play into that?
Tom House was his pitching coach with the Texas Rangers for that period of time. And there was a couple guys on that staff that pitched well into their 40s. And I think a lot of those guys would credit Tom House for playing an instrumental role in that. He was doing a lot of things then that I think a lot of other people looked at and scratched their heads and wondered what it was, but at the end of the day, I think he was helping those guys maintain longevity, beat the aging process, and still pitch at a high level deep into their 40s.
Was Tom's connection with him something that attracted you to Tom, or is that just kind of a coincidence?
I met Tom and began working with Tom before I knew about the Nolan Ryan connection.
Hey Drew, I know what goes into the thought process of you playing in the preseason or not. I know sometimes it's like the preseason games are pretty difficult to confirm familiarity with receivers, relationships. Just what is it? Why you decide to play in some games and others you don't?
Well, listen, I mean, I think it's a couple things. Number one, I don't necessarily decide, you know, but I think you look at it and it's, okay, it's risk reward, right? Obviously, you know, it's important for me to get some reps in the preseason, and it's really just a matter of how many. I feel like getting some work in the second preseason game and the third preseason game prepares me plenty for the regular season. We got a lot of other guys that we're trying to get work, right? It's good that Taysom Hill gets a lot of reps, right? As we develop him. It's good that Tom Savage gets a familiarity and comfort level with this offense and these guys. It's important that JT Barrett gets some time. And I think just in the big picture, you know, it's for those guys to be able to step in and run the huddle and do the things that's required of the quarterback position. So for me, what do I need to do to get ready to play for the regular season? I'm going to make sure I get that done out here and with preseason. And the rest of it is developing young players.
How do you approach helping the other quarterbacks on the team?
Well, I take care of my business, and then every chance I get, I am completely open to answering questions for them, helping them. We talk through a lot of things in meetings, you know. I mean, obviously, we've got a lot of experience in this offense, you know, now going on 13 years, and the way that it's evolved. And, you know, we can be sitting there watching a concept, you know, in the film room, and, you know, me, Joe, and Pete, the fact that we've been together for so long too, like we could sit there and go through the whole origin and history of that play. Hey, we started running this play in this year, and this is how we ran it then, and then, you know, 2 years later we evolved it to this because we started seeing more of this coverage, or we had this guy. And so you can give them the history on it, and so because of all that, this is how we read it now, and this is why we know it's the best way to do it, right? And then here's all the video evidence, right? It's like when somebody comes to you and it's like, we have science-based research. It's like, we have video-based research and evidence right here, okay? And this is why we do it. So I'd say that's where, when you're installing the offense and those guys are hearing it for the first time, you know, somebody like me with a lot of these concepts, you know, it's very much second nature. So we're able to talk through that and communicate it.
Do you believe there's such thing as a gamer, a guy that can kind of bring the second level of intensity on Sundays, might not practice, you know, up to that same par?
I think it's hard. I think everybody's different. I've only known very few guys that could do that. Very few. I'd say for the most part, guys need to see it, they need to do it, they need to feel it, they need to rep it, and then it becomes ingrained. You know, listen, the more veteran you are, you know, you have to manage, you know, the amount of reps that you get during the week with training camp especially, but even during the week, during the season, you know, you got to manage that, because at the end of the day, you want guys to be as healthy and as full speed as possible on Sunday, right? But they also have to know what to do. So what helps that guy know what to do the best? Is he able to just get a few reps during the week and then get to Sunday and know what to do? Because he watched a ton of film and he's just, you know, he's a smart, cerebral guy and he has experience and all those. Or I'd say for most young players, man, you need the reps. You need time on task. You need, you know, just the experience.
How would you compare the Patrick Robinson you see now to the one that you knew when he played?
Just maturity. You know, he's played a lot of football now. What is this, his 9th year? I was the one who got to call his name at the draft, in the 2010 draft. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, he's just, you know, I think just the maturity is probably the best way to say it. Mature, experienced, you know, savvy, veteran, you know, just he doesn't look like, he just doesn't look like a young guy who's still trying to get it and understand it. You know, he's a guy who looks like, okay, you know, I've been there, I've played that position, I've had that experience, I've seen that route, I've seen that concept. I see him, you know, in his communication, he's much better with his communication with other, you know, DBs out there on the field when they start seeing different looks and splits and, hey, watch for this, watch for that, okay, I got you here, you know, whatever the signal might be. So just more experience.
Has Sean's coaching style changed over the years?
Listen, I mean, Sean's the same guy, you know. He's always been an extremely good teacher, communicator, motivator. He's constantly trying to find ways to get the best out of players. And he's got a good understanding of what it takes for each guy to do that, because not every guy's the same, you know. And so while there's a standard that's expected for every guy, how to get to that point is maybe different in the way that he approaches each guy. And he's very, very good at doing that.
Do you have any input on any like new wrinkles added to the offense since you've been here so long? Like, you ever watch college football and see?
Oh yeah, we put in college football plays all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, we steal football plays all over the place. That's you know, that's why I love watching football. Like it's funny, you can ask Pete and Joe. Like they'll be in game plan meetings, you know, during the week, and I'll be sitting watching a college football game or a Thursday night game or, you know, some other game, and something will pop up on the screen, the team will run a play, and I'll be like, pause, rewind, phone out, record, and I'm like narrating as it goes. Hey, watch how they set it up with, and then we could do this with, okay, let's put it in, you know, and so they'll send me back, oh, I like it, you know, hey, we'll take it to Sean, you know. So yeah, man, we steal.
I want to talk to you about this offensive line right now, how sort of stacked it's becoming.
I couldn't be more impressed with those guys, their work ethic, their pride in what they do, especially with, you know, last year, man, a lot of moving parts, right? A lot of guys having to step in and play various position from week to week, right? So big credit to Dan Roshar, their coach, and just the leadership in that room. You know, last year, you know, Max Unger has been so solid. Zach Strief, of course, and you know, losing him being very tough just because of his, not only his productivity as a player, but just his maturity and his experience and his ability to communicate and coach. I mean, he was as much a coach as anybody, you know. But man, you bring guys in with the type of character and makeup that you know, Ramczyk has, and then Teron Armstead now getting healthy and back in the lineup again, getting Pete back in there again. You know, Larry Warford was such a great addition last year too. I mean, just fits the mold for the guys that we have here. So, you know, take all those guys and man, it's just a formidable group. It's a great group. It's a group that comes out here every day and is ready to work and ready to step up to whatever challenge that presents itself.
I'm sure it's not so simple as saying,
Last question,
they're going to extend Drew Brees' career by all these investments they've made in the offensive line, but that's something, I mean, you saw last year with the improvement of the run game and everything. Does that make a quarterback's life a lot different?
It totally does. I mean, those guys, your ability to do a lot of things offensively hinges upon the play of the guys in front of you, you know, and that's the run game, that's the pass game, and the screen game, and I mean, you name it, you know, if they're playing well, and then you're able to open up the offense in a way that you know, makes us very dangerous, you know, and so we've been very fortunate over the years to have great guys, not only good players, but, you know, just great leadership and great character and great toughness, and, you know, across the board, you know, with our offensive lines. And this group is one of the best we've had in regards to all those things. And man, you always hope and pray that everybody's able to stay healthy, but even if, you know at times you're going to lose a guy for a few games or whatever, and man, you got guys that are ready to step in, and it's just, you know, it's that cohesive unit. I mean, different than any other position group on the field, right? That cohesive unit, man, has to be on the same page and has to, you know, in order for us to be able to open it up and do all the things we do. Yeah. All right, guys, thanks.